Hail, this is vailychat.
Imagine a historic heat wave, melting an entire mountain's winter snowpack in just a matter of days. You would expect massive, raging rivers, right? Instead, well, the rivers are practically disappearing.
It's a complete hydrological paradox.
Today, we are finding out exactly where all that water went. But first, do re mi fa sol la ti do.
I mean, it is always impressive how you manage to hit that pitch cold before we even start looking through the notes.
Hey, I try my best. Welcome everyone to this custom-tailored deep dive. We are adopting the upbeat vailychat news format today, and we are absolutely thrilled you could join us.
It's a great format for what we're covering today.
Definitely. So our mission today is to unpack a massive stack of sources, specifically the Eagle Valley Newsroom operational analysis from late April 2026. We're going to give you a shortcut to being completely well-informed on what is honestly a pretty chaotic mix of local crises, national security shifts, and, well, some seriously quirky mountaintine resilience.
Yeah, it is a hefty stack of documents to synthesize today.
Yeah.
We are pulling from real-time meteorological telemetry, local logistical road statuses, and, international wires to give you the complete picture of what is happening on the ground and globally.
Now, before we jump into the material, a quick mandatory disclaimer to set the stage. Some of the breaking news in our sources today involves highly politically charged federal actions from the Trump administration.
Right, and that's an important note.
Exactly. We want to clearly and impartially state to you, the listener, that neither of us takes any political sides here. No left wing, no right wing. We are strictly reporting the facts exactly as they are presented in these source documents without endorsing or opposing any of the viewpoints or policies discussed.
That baseline of impartiality is crucial because when you look at these sources collectively, the overarching theme of the day is about a community, and frankly, a country, dealing with severe systemic whiplash.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
We are analyzing a reality where the fundamental rules of the calendar, the economy, and global geopolitics are being rewritten almost overnight.
It really feels like everyone was driving 60 miles an hour in one direction, and suddenly the steering wheel just snapped off in their hands.
That's exactly what it feels like.
Let's start by looking far outside the Colorado mountains and straight into global supply chain vulnerability. President Trump has just ordered the U.S. Navy to, quote, shoot and kill any Iranian small boats that attempt to block or lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, and the magnitude of this military escalation really requires us to look at the actual geography of the region. The Strait of Hormuz is essentially the geopolitical jugular vein of the global energy market.
A massive percentage of the world's traded oil passes through there, right?
Exactly, it passes right through that narrow waterway. But the vulnerability isn't just about the volume of oil, it is about the physical mechanics of the space itself.
Okay, let's unpack this because I think people picture a wide open ocean, but a strait is a massive bottleneck.
Precisely. While the strait is about 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, the actual navigable shipping lanes,
The ones deep enough for those massive supertankers.
yes, the lanes deep enough for fully loaded supertankers are incredibly constrained. We are talking about lanes that are only 2 miles wide in either direction, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone.
Wow! So it's essentially a maritime highway with no shoulders.
And that creates a terrifying scenario for asymmetrical warfare. You don't need a massive, sophisticated naval fleet to shut it down. A few fast, cheap speedboats dropping relatively inexpensive naval mines into those specific 2-mile channels can completely paralyze a billion-dollar supertanker.
Just the threat of it is enough, I imagine.
Exactly. The threat alone forces these massive ships to halt.
Which totally explains the sudden, absolute zero-tolerance shift in international waters. When the directive is explicitly shoot and kill for vessels laying mines, you bypass the usual diplomatic gray areas or warning shots.
Right. It is a binary line in the sand designed to protect that specific bottleneck.
And the reason this matters to you, even if you are listening to this in a landlocked mountain town, is that any kinetic military action, or even just the threat of it in that strait, alters the risk calculus for maritime actuaries.
It instantly spikes insurance premiums for global shipping.
Exactly. Those increased costs are immediately baked into the global energy market, which ultimately impacts the price you pay at the pump or to heat your home.
It is a stark reminder of how fragile our global logistics chain really is.
It really is, but we don't have to look all the way to the Middle East to find massive economic shifts. Let's bring this down to domestic vulnerability, because the federal government is rewriting the rules of the domestic economy today as well.
This is a huge one.
In what is truly a historic move, the Trump administration has formally reclassified state-licensed medical marijuana as a Schedule III drug.
This represents a profound shift in federal posture. I mean, for decades, marijuana has been classified under Schedule 1.
Along with heroin, right?
Yes. Legally speaking, the government viewed it as having no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse, grouping it right alongside heroin. Moving it to Schedule 3, which covers drugs with accepted medical uses and lower potential for abuse, like certain prescription painkillers or testosterone.
It fundamentally alters the entire legal landscape.
Exactly.
It feels less like moving a controversial book to a different section of a library and more like taking a massive cash-only underground bazaar and suddenly plugging it directly into Wall Street.
That's a great way to put it.
It just completely rewrites their entire operational code overnight.
The underground bazaar plugging into Wall Street is a highly accurate analogy, specifically because of the underlying tax mechanisms. Under Schedule 1, state-licensed dispensaries faced a crippling federal tax burden because of a specific tax code called 280E.
Okay, wait, let's slow down here. I want to make sure I understand the mechanics of 280E. How does it actually cripple a business that is supposedly bringing in millions of dollars in a state where it's legal?
Think about how a normal business operates. If you own a coffee shop, you pay taxes on your net income. You take your total revenue and you subtract your normal business expenses.
Like rent, employee payroll, utilities, that sort of thing.
Right, your marketing, all of that. You only pay the IRS based on the profit left over. But under Tax Code 280E, because dispensaries were selling a federally illegal Schedule I substance, the IRS barred them from taking those normal operational deductions.
Wait, so even if they sell millions of dollars of product, they could technically be operating at a loss because of high rent and payroll.
But still owe the IRS massive taxes.
Because they're being taxed on their gross revenue. That's insane.
Yeah, that is the exact mechanism that has kept the industry in a financial chokehold for years. They were taxed on their gross profit. By shifting the classification to Schedule 3, the federal government flips that accounting switch.
So dispensaries can now operate like standard businesses.
It effectively unlocks access to traditional banking, standardizes their taxation, and opens the floodgates for formal, well-funded medical research. The whiplash here is a legally ambiguous industry suddenly being handed a standardized corporate framework.
That is a massive pivot for the domestic economy. But, that theme of structural vulnerability isn't just about global shipping lanes or federal tax codes. We can see that exact same fragility applied directly to the literal pavement here in Colorado.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's all about bottlenecks again.
Exactly. The sources report that Interstate 70 eastbound had to be completely shut down between Edwards and Avon earlier today due to a major crash involving a core transit bus.
I mean, the highway has since reopened, but the ripple effects of a closure like that are enormous. Because I-70 isn't just a convenient road for commuters. It is the sole economic artery of the entire Eagle River Valley.
Which is a reality dictated purely by the mountain geography. When you have a valley surrounded by immense, impassable mountain ranges, your infrastructural redundancy is basically zero.
There are no surface streets to detour onto.
Right. You can't just take the next exit and wind your way through a suburban neighborhood to get around the crash.
And because of that geographical bottleneck, a single transit incident involving a large vehicle like a core transit bus does so much more than just delay traffic. It physically severs the workforce from the resort cores.
It traps commercial freight, it blocks emergency services and ambulances from moving between towns.
It essentially halts all commerce. It highlights the extreme fragility of local infrastructure. An entire billion-dollar mountain economy is entirely dependent on 2 ribbons of asphalt staying clear.
And as vulnerable as the physical infrastructure is, the environmental infrastructure seems to be failing even faster. The sources highlight a brutal case of environmental whiplash playing out right now with the Colorado rafting crisis.
The projections there are pretty grim.
Yeah, rafting companies are facing an unprecedented crisis, with river levels projected to be exactly half of their normal flow for the upcoming summer season.
Which is economically devastating for an entire sector of tourism that relies entirely on predictable stream flows to operate their businesses.
But let me push back on this and look at the data here because it feels like a massive paradox.
What do you mean?
Well, the local SenseNotel site, and for you listening, that is the automated telemetry network of remote weather stations that measures our high-altitude snowpack. It recorded a total 100% meltout on March 31st due to a historic extreme heat wave, the earliest in recorded history.
Right, the early heat wave.
So wait, if an entire mountain's worth of winter snow melted completely in a matter of days, shouldn't there be a massive rushing wall of water filling up the rivers right now? Where did the physical water actually go?
It's the ultimate paradox of hydrology, and it is confusing a lot of people right now. You naturally assume that a fast snow melt equals a fast river.
Right, that seems logical.
But you have to look at the underlying mechanics of the soil prior to that heat wave. We had an incredibly parched, dry winter leading up to that sudden spike in temperatures.
Meaning the ground itself was starved of moisture before the snow even started melting.
Exactly. So when the snow finally melted under that extreme heat, the water didn't flow rapidly over the surface into the creeks and rivers to create that rushing white water for the rafting season.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Instead, the parched earth underneath the snowpack acted like a giant dry sponge.
The subterranean soil deficit swallowed the runoff before it could even hit the surface streams.
The earth essentially drank the snowpack to replenish its own deep deficits. So the surface rivers remain starved, and the local rafting companies are left staring at a 50% flow projection.
That is a devastating economic reality for summer tourism. Outfitters have to cancel commercial trips, seasonal river guides lose their expected income.
And the downstream municipalities that rely on that river flow for their drinking water have to instantly pivot into emergency conservation modes.
It's the calendar breaking again. Winter ended abruptly in March, and the summer river season effectively evaporated into the dirt before May even started.
It's a huge disruption.
That 50% drop in river flow isn't just an environmental statistic, it's a massive blow to the community's livelihood. But interestingly, when the macro systems fail, whether it's the climate or the economy, you see these mountain communities finding incredible stability in hyper-local, completely unexpected places.
Like a high school tennis court.
Yes, I am so glad we get to talk about this.
It's a great story.
Despite the global standoffs, the bus crashes shutting down the highway, and the vanishing rivers, the local youth are out there delivering absolute perfection.
They really are.
The #1 seeded Vail Christian girls tennis team put on a flawless performance in the Edwards Court today. They swept Conifer 7-0 to advance to the 3A team's state quarterfinals.
A completely clean sweep. That is genuinely fantastic news for those athletes. And, it is crucial to highlight these local sports milestones, especially on a day filled with such heavy systemic news.
Because it serves as a psychological counterweight to everything else we've discussed
This
today.
definitely grounds people.
When the macro systems around you feel incredibly chaotic, when you are worried about global shipping lanes, federal tax codes, and whether your town will have enough drinking water, a high school tennis match offers a point of absolute, undeniable stability.
The rules are entirely clear. The boundaries are bright white lines painted on a court, and the outcome is fair and earned through hard work.
It gives the community a collective moment to exhale. It is pure, uncomplicated, and completely within their control, which is something in really short supply right now.
It grounds the community.
And honestly, that concept of community grounding transitions us perfectly into the second part of our deep dive. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Act 2, the quirky deep dive.
Yeah.
What did you pull from the local community calendars?
We are shifting away from the hard-breaking news to look at the delightfully weird and resilient ways this local mountain community actually gathers, adapts, and plans for the future. This is my absolute favorite scheduling detail from the entire operational analysis.
All right, let's hear it.
Our sources show that the High Altitude Quilt Guild is holding its 2:00 p.m. meeting today.
A quilting guild meeting sounds incredibly peaceful.
It does, but you have to hear the location. They are holding their quilting meeting at the Gypsum Gun Club.
The Quilt Guild setting up shop at the gun club.
Yes! I could not stop laughing when I read this. I mean, it's like pairing a delicate chamomile tea with a monster truck rally. It's a perfect example of high-altitude geometry.
It really is.
You don't have the luxury of building sprawling new community centers or endless suburban strip malls in a narrow mountain valley. You essentially have to play Tetris with the square footage you already have. So you get this absurd juxtaposition of the softest, most meticulous craft imaginable happening right alongside a facility built for ballistics.
It is a brilliant testament to the pragmatic nature of local infrastructure. Because space is at such an absolute premium, it forces a quirky shared space reality.
People from completely different walks of life, with completely different hobbies, coexist and overlap.
Exactly. It completely defies traditional city zoning logic. The Quilt Guild needs a large room with big, sturdy tables to lay out massive yards of fabric. The Gun Club happens to have a large clubhouse room with tables.
In a mountain town, you don't worry about the optics or the sign on the door, you just share the room.
It's purely functional. It's just neighbors sharing resources because the geography demands it. It shows a tight-knit community that refuses to be slowed down by logistical barriers. If they want to gather, they will find a way to gather.
And speaking of that deep desire to gather, our final quirky topic today involves a massive musical milestone for the Valley.
The String Cheese Incident ticket launch.
Yes, they officially launched their ticket sales today at 10:00 a.m. They are booking upcoming shows for September 11th and 12th at the Gerald R. Ford Amphitheater in the Vail Core.
You know, what's fascinating here is the timing of this ticket launch. That's what really stands out to me.
Mm.
We were in late April, and the community is aggressively buying tickets for an event in late September.
It feels like an emotional anchor. Think about the whiplash this specific community has just been through.
It's been nonstop.
They had their primary economic driver, the winter ski season, abruptly canceled weeks early due to record heat. They are now facing a threatened summer where the rafting rivers are projected to run at half capacity. The seasonal calendars they rely on for both their income and their recreation have been essentially ripped up.
Right.
So when tickets go on sale for a beloved band playing in the fall,
They grab them immediately. Because purchasing that ticket is a collective statement of defiance. It is the community saying, well, the snow failed us, the river might fail us, the highway might shut down, but we are still going to gather in that amphitheater this fall and celebrate together.
it is a profound act of resilience. They are actively anchoring themselves to future communal joy when the present moment feels entirely unpredictable.
That's a really powerful way to look at it.
You know, you start a deep dive with just a stack of disparate news items, and you end up seeing the entire heartbeat of a community. So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out and look at the whole picture we've painted today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We started at the absolute highest stakes imaginable, presidential shoot-and-kill orders altering the mechanics of the Strait of Hormuz, and the historic Schedule 3 reclassification rewriting the tax code for a massive domestic industry.
We examined how those massive shifts in policy and power create immediate ripple effects.
And then we brought it all the way down to the pavement, with transit buses shutting down a valley's only logistical artery, the parched earth swallowing the rafting industry's water supply, an undefeated local tennis team finding perfect stability on the court, and my favorite, a quilt guild playing spatial Tetris at a local gun club.
It is the full spectrum of the human experience playing out in a single 24-hour news cycle. A masterclass in adaptation.
It truly is. And to you, our listener, if you've enjoyed this fast-paced vailychat format and getting into the mechanics behind the headlines, please take a second to like and follow the show. It really helps us keep bringing you these custom-tailored deep dives into the stories that matter most to you.
And I want to leave you with one final lingering question to ponder as you go about your day. It builds on this entire theme we've been tracking of failing environmental calendars.
Oh, all right. What is it?
We've seen billions of dollars and massive global industries disrupted because winter ended in March and the rivers dried up in April. If the predictability of the seasons is genuinely gone forever, will mountain towns eventually be forced to abandon the concept of tourist seasons entirely and reinvent themselves as permanent year-round urban economies just to survive?
Wow, that is a wild thought. No more winter town or summer town, just survival through constant adaptation. It takes that idea of whiplash we talked about at the beginning and makes it the permanent reality.
Something to mull over as you navigate your own calendar today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for exploring this stack of sources with us. Stay curious, stay adaptable, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.